What do you think it is about the 20-year mark that suddenly turns the car into a classic?
I don't think it's the 20-year itself. You can't assume that everything made 20 years ago is instantly a classic. But if you think about it, the people who were interested in cars 20 years ago when they were kids, and now, let's say in the late 30s, 40s, and then they're going, oh, do you know what? I remember that Honda Civic Type R that my mate had, and we used to smash around in when we were kids. Or I always wanted a Porsche 996 GT3 when I was a kid. Now I've got the money and I'm doing well at work. Now I'm going to buy one. So it's the cars that they really wanted and lusted after when they were younger, as opposed to just it was made in 2003. Then bingo, it's a classic, because it's I think there's more nuances attached to it. So
yeah.
I think the number of them around actually is a big factor as well. So there are plenty of lots of fun, affordable cars, of which there's still plenty of them knocking around in dealerships and in the private ads, and those are the ones that are still relatively affordable to buy. But it's when you get to that situation where the number of people lusting after them who are nostalgic for them, when that number is greater than the number of good survivors, that's when it starts pushing prices up. And we've seen that with cars like Ford Escort, RS Turbos, things like XR3s and so on, where those prices are much higher now than they were sort of 10 or 15 years ago, because all the bad ones have gone.
Yeah.
There's also a final danger, certainly in this country, for cars, and it's going to follow through right through Europe. With the ULEZ and other clean air areas that are growing in every territory, we're about to condemn, if this charge goes through, probably 500,000 cars to the crusher. Whereas Lancia had it built in years ago, they just rusted away. But now they're going to be crushed. You're going to have very, very good cars suddenly going into the crusher. Some parts recycled, some not. So what you're going to end up in, with say 20 years' time, as vehicles that are going to be future classics, a little bit like Jurassic Park. I can see more and more of it around the show today. They're taking the body of cars and rebuilding them with electrics. I said this earlier, you've got the body but perhaps not the spirit of the car. And we're going to suddenly see that with perhaps classics that are future classics from today. And let's go back just over the last 8 or 10 years and think about certain cars. The Lexus. I mean, the Lexus Sports, the SC430, a very underestimated car, very reasonable to pick up. The Renault Megane R26. I mean, these are cars that actually, are cracking cars. Should actually still be allowed to drive. They probably won't be ULEZ compliant. Current owners will just have to sell them, because it's going to cost them 15 quid to take it out to drive every day.
Full of the joys of
I think maybe that might.
It's scary.
Really. But I think that look, how many classic cars are there in the UK? The figures I see are sort of 1.5, 1.6 million, something like that.
Yeah, that figure is for historic vehicles.
So actually, if you add the modern stuff, then you're probably adding another million.
It's quite a substantial number, and obviously the really big thing with historic vehicles is they get protection from and exemptions from these clean air charges that are being brought in cities across Britain. And actually, the real risk here with that zone is that, as we pointed out, is that those cars, enthusiasts might be saving them, but there are plenty of people who might have maybe something like a slightly scratchy Toyota MR2 or Honda S2000 or something, and it's a car that needs restoring, but actually not having that recognition as a historic vehicle, that might be the difference between that car being saved or being scrapped in the future.
But the restrictions will probably only get heavier over the next 20 years.
That's true.
What we're going to then see is a car that today, I think, is it 35 or 40 years before you get the classic status, so that it becomes ULEZ free. If in the next 10 years you're going to find cars sitting in garages, people won't store them, and there's going to be a restricted number of classics eventually.
It's interesting, actually. I've got a Mark 1 MX-5 at home. It's a 32-year-old car. Under the old historic tax recognition system, which was rolling in the early 90s, that would be exempt by now. They keep changing the rules and putting it back and moving things and changing the rolling exemptions forward and backwards. And now, obviously, it's got another 8 years to wait.
That's